All right, Braith, it's great to have you back. I know you're in a hurry. You're a busy man. I've seen you in the gym 3 times a day at some point, and I was very surprised when I seen that thing in Bali.
Yeah.
Because I know how hard you train. But mate, it's great. It's fitting to have you back on the first podcast for the year when we had you first last year. But a lot's happened in the last season. But I wanted to start with the biggest event in rugby league.
Yep.
Because I remember when you got back, you were smiling. I've never seen you smile so much.
Yeah.
You were in Vegas for the doubleheader. It was huge. What was it like for you in Vegas for that event and just watching rugby league grow the way it has?
Yeah, I just got goosebumps, Andy, which is just funny. It was huge, and we're just about to go back, but it was massive for a lot of reasons because for our game to grow and be in the US and to launch over in Las Vegas, but not only was it in Vegas, but it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the Super Bowl. So working for Fox Sports, we had the exact same setup as the Super Bowl. So they left the seating as it was for the coverage and the callers up in the box. So we rocked up to game day there, and actually I walked to my seat, which was on field before the first game, and on my chair it had Tom Brady on the back. So he actually sat in that chair 2 weeks before me and called the Super Bowl. So I was like, whoa, and for someone like me who, obviously played like yourself, Jay, and am a big fan of sport, and then dreamed of becoming a host and to be on a coverage, a sport coverage like the rugby league, to go over there, it was a real pinch yourself moment. And you talk about goosebumps, but it really was. It was, the stadium was next level. Like it's 7-star, different at the stadiums here in Australia. The technology, both in the box where you call the game, but on field. It was an NFL field where they actually put the grass in specifically for the game, so they can move the whole field out of the stadium and put it back in. Like it's just, the technology's crazy. And then the vibe over there was amazing because, you get a lot of animosity back here, which you love. A lot of teams, fans hate each other, and that's all part of the tribalism that comes with sport. But because everyone was on a holiday and everyone was just happy to be in Vegas, the vibe there was amazing. That Las Vegas was full of Australians, but really excited about the event and the launch and the sides and it was actually a bit surreal to be there for the launch of the year, but also to see a lot of Aussies over there and having a good time, of course, over in Vegas too, because it gets a bit loose. But it was very special, very special.
Do you get over there a week or so before?
Yeah, we get there a week before. A lot of people say to me, how good you go to Vegas, and because when you think of Vegas, you think a lot of people think party and all that. But really, I was never been so busy in my life because we actually got a private charter there. So the NRL private charters, Fox and Nine.
Yep.
Although Fox have exclusive rights, Nine still cover it in some sort of degree, not much. And then they have a number of fans who can win a trip to Vegas and that sort of thing. So we private jet straight to the airport. We were through customs in half an hour, and we were at the bar by 8 a.m. because it was my only day I had free.
Yeah. So
it was me, Fletch Hindy,
Crew.
Matty Johns, Paul Gallen. Who else was there? Wade Graham. So it was a pretty. So I thought I'm going to enjoy the first day because after that, So then after that, we did 360 3 days in a row, and on 360 was the launch of the year, so that was high pressure, and I knew a lot of eyeballs would be watching because everyone's striving or waiting for NRL to be back. So I was really nervous about that because I'm in a bit of a comfort zone. But then when you're it was live on the Strip in Vegas, fans there, MGM Grand behind us. It was a big deal, and I just wanted to get that first episode out of the way, which was a real highlight. And then, so we're there a week earlier, and then we do the game day, which was the 2 games, post game, and then I had to do an NRL 360 pre-record at 12:30 a.m. after the games, so that they could play it on my flight back. So then when I've landed, I go straight to the studio for the Tuesday edition. So a lot goes into it. Yeah.
So it's a massive schedule, and so a lot of the teams that played last year said their season wasn't the best, their prep wasn't the best. They had to take so many things over.
Yeah.
What do you think about the rugby league team saying that? Because for me in Australia, it was a spectacle. Like I loved watching the game. Do you think those sides are a little bit out of order for saying that, or do you think that it's warranted because, like Brisbane wasn't quite at the pace? Roosters were, but obviously they had a lot of injuries.
Yeah. No, I think it is warranted, but sometimes you got to sacrifice a little of your own, I suppose, preparation or ideal preparation for a season for the betterment of the game. Every club wanted to go there last year, but now clubs are hesitant because they saw that, but it's in their contracts, I believe, that every team has to go over the next 5 years. It's a 5-year contract. But I get it, because, how do you get it right? You got to, it interrupts your pre-season. You got to go over to the States. You got to acclimatise, different time zones. Do you go to LA first? Do you go straight to Vegas? I think the teams that went straight to Vegas, did better and won the games. Manly, I think, did that with the Sea Bowl. And then the Roosters, I'm not sure. I think they went to Santa Monica and did some training there, or San Diego, I think maybe. But then, I think all of them struggled this year, didn't they? Yeah. Manly were really good at times, and a few of them sort of carried form early, but then fell off a cliff. So you find now that a lot of the CEOs and clubs are not putting their hand up as they were for last year, but they know at some point it's going to have to come. So that but you got to be better. It is what it is. You're a professional team. You do it for a living. It may put a week or two out of your pre-season and your preparation, but you can't blame that for not succeeding that year. And you know what? This year Penrith are going. So we'll see what happens.
Someone needs to stop them. So this may slow them down a little bit.
Maybe it's a good thing for everyone else, right?
Exactly. How many games is he going to call this year? Because there's 4 games. Yeah. But he's going to call the Wigan.
Mate, we'll be calling everything.
All of them, really?
We'll be calling everything. So, there's the Super League game, the women's game, which is great. And then we've got obviously the double headers, 4 games. It's going to be a long day. Great viewing, great viewing for people back here. Hard work for us over there, which makes it even probably busier than what I was last year. But I think it's, Peter V'landys has done a magnificent job. He's growing the game. I think they've already sold out, whereas this time last year they hadn't sold out at Legion Stadium there. So it's all, and the Pommies, the English, a lot of them were there last year, and there'll be a heap coming because the game isn't as big in England as it is here, right? Yeah. But their fans they're like the EPL fans, and they're so passionate. So it brings a diversity there, and again, it grows the game over in England, so as well as the States.
It's actually a great business move to take a UK game there.
Yeah.
The Yanks, do you think they bought into the game, or was it a little bit of a throw?
I don't know if I should answer this honestly, but I only know one way. No, you know what? There wasn't many of them there, but it was the first year. I think this year will give us more of an indication. Yep. I know they appreciate the sport. They think we're fucking crazy because we don't wear pads. Yep. But they still haven't bought in. It's going to be hard to buy in. I mean, the NFL, massive. The NBA and the baseball, it's just crazy over there. Yep. But that's not why V'landys took it there. I know he says that, but a lot of it's based around gambling. So. Yep. Because gambling's been legalised over in the States over the past couple of years, and Peter's obviously head of Racing New South Wales, and he's very smart. And if he I think what I've heard, I'm pretty sure is true. If rugby league gets even 1% of the gambling market in the States, that's billions of dollars. Yep. So Peter looks at the game. He looks ahead, which I love, and the game will benefit from it.
Cash-wise.
Yeah, cash-wise moving forward. And if we get the American audience eventually, then happy days.
Yeah. So that becomes a kind of a big bonus for the game.
Yes.
In terms of that.
I'll get a piece of the pie, yeah.
Mm-hmm. With obviously the money generating into the game, do you think the players need to go to the next level and earn more money for what they put their body through? I mean, this obviously all of this helps with the players making more money, so they should all jump on board, right?
That's why I think the players, as we get older, as we evolve and the game gets bigger and the salary cap goes up, and we have leaders like Peter and Andrew Abdo, the game's going to earn more money, then the players can get paid more money. It's just the way that it works. So the more the players invest in and believe in their leaders, the more money and revenue the game will get, the more they're going to get paid. You need to think of it as a business. So the players should get more involved in it. They're getting paid already more than what they ever have. The salaries are going up. and they will continue to go up with the more success the game has and the more exposure we give it. So it's a no-brainer. I think, that's where the players, and even I say this too, I think the players have got to give more of themselves. When we play, we didn't think or understand that, so I get that, right? But the access to change rooms, and you watch the NFL and they're interviewing the coaches, he's going up, at half time, and you're getting his halftime speech before he gives his halftime speech to his players. Is insight that the fans love, and that's why they get big viewership and huge dollars. In terms of TV rights, global TV rights. So I think the more players give, the more coaches give of that inner sanctum, the more people are going to watch and the more money they're going to earn down the track. So, we try and get inside of that with Fox Sports, and we have got more access than what we used to. And but like you said, if the players actually really think about it intently, their pockets will be more full if they give more. It's a sacrifice. It's a sort of small sacrifice that will benefit long term.
Does that come from the coaches though?
Well, what I was just about to say, do you think the players are guarded due to some parts of the media?
Definitely.
They don't want to open up because, you see players that are tremendous to speak in front of the cameras, and there's other ones because they've been pasted before. They're just like, I'm just going to give you 3-word answers. That's got to be a to and fro between the players and the media, I think.
Definitely, and players get burnt by the media as I got burnt my whole life. I get it. I get it more than anyone. The criticism and also the backlash that comes with it, but. And I understand, and there's players that definitely speak better than others and are more comfortable in front of the camera than not. But again, I suppose get up to speed more with your media and your communication and your presence. You're a brand. I think that a lot of players like yourself now, even post footy, are learning that there's businesses out there. Your money that you earn in footy is not going to last you a lifetime. Cost of living has gone up. Separation rates are 55% and above. So there's a high percentage. Unfortunately, like myself, you're going to get divorced and lose a house or whatever. That's the reality.
It's not funny.
I like to laugh about it now, but that's the reality. And because I've managed a few players, I tell them that. I actually say to them, you never know what's going to happen. So. Going back, it's uncomfortable for players, and they do get burnt, and they get wary of talking to certain journalists and giving certain things away. But suck it all up and work on yourself and your presentation, and you're going to be better off for it. You're going to earn more money. You're going to be able to supply your kids and your family and have a better life and longevity.
I think you are right, because we're coming into a day and age now where you can make money from the internet, all these things, and I'm starting to see players be a bit more vulnerable in sharing their lives through vlogs and all those sorts of things. I think that's a massive thing for those people, because once you start doing that sort of stuff, you'll see the fans will actually want to interact more, and it'll build that sort of bit more community base around the player and the fans, and hopefully the media as well get on board that and start to see, they're actually doing these things within their communities or outside of rugby.
You also normalise yourself. The fans can relate more.
Exactly.
People are more vulnerable. We're all going to go through things in our lives that set us back, and we're all going to have our issues and all that sort of thing. And you're right. A lot of players now are sharing that more. And I think Nico Hines is a good example of that. And then you've got Toddy Carney and Mitch Pearce and these guys, but and current players like even Latrell and these guys, it's not easy. It's hard. It is very hard. But I think if you show your vulnerabilities and you be open and honest, people actually think he's like us, and they love that. And I think that's where we're getting to these days, and people respect that.
And I promise you, we're all like each other. It's
100%. 100%.
As men, we're all the same.
Yep.
There's moments that you continuously have when you're taking action towards something that you feel a little bit vulnerable, almost like a little bit naked, going, "Fuck, is this going to work out for me or not?"
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I look at in rugby league, mate, there's a lot of we've interviewed heaps of players, mate. There's a lot of smart, educated players that have finished, and with the sport. But they seem to lack this little bit of confidence because they're in a system.
Yeah.
So in that system, they do really well. But like Rennie Matua speaks unbelievably well.
Yeah.
These guys have got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
They're very, very talented. Sometimes, and I remember talking to you last year, you had this vision. I remember you were saying when you were sitting in with Nick Politis and Packer, and you were overlooking, one of the houses of the water, and you just knew what you wanted to do. You knew you wanted to be, an anchor on one of the sports channels and be the main guy. you had that vision, so you had that belief. In moments in the space, obviously you lose a bit of belief. You have a bad game.
Yeah.
You still know where you want to go, but you have a bad game and media's on you, and you go, "Fuck, I don't know if I've got this ability in me." Do you feel like these players, and I look at all of them, they're super talented. Like not just in the sport, but I think they can do almost anything they want to do. Do you feel like they talk themselves almost out of it sometimes?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, a lot of us get scarred, and, you know, everything's about confidence, right? Confidence is king in everything that we do, right? That belief, self-belief can be crushed at times. You know, the criticisms from the outside noise, you know, and I say the moment in your life where you can get to a point, whether it's through therapy or, you know, sports psych, whatever it is, the moment you can get to a point in your life where you actually don't give a fuck what anyone else thinks, like you just don't care what anyone else thinks, apart from your mum, your dad, your family, your best mates. If you just don't care what anyone else thinks and you get in your own sort of bubble and you just focus on what you're doing and you don't react to anyone else and you have a clear dream, you got balance, you got discipline, and you work your ass off, then the sky's the limit. You know, I think what holds you back is a lack of confidence and belief, and that comes from really most of the time outside noises and people's interpretation or opinion of you. You know what I mean? Like we just get in our own way because of that. When really, does it fucking matter what anyone else thinks? No, it doesn't, and that held me back for years. Like there's no way I reached my potential because I was so worried about what everyone else thought, or you know, or what they were saying about me, or what people were writing about me going back. And then I'm on a show now where we're highly critical. Also, we praise, we highly praise players, but we're highly critical. So I get it, but you know, the potential of so many players is held back by, you know, just their mentality, and I would say vulnerability, but also negativity. You know, like it comes down, as I said, it comes down to having good balance in your life, good discipline, setting goals, and just not giving a shit what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, because we were checking our comments from the podcast, and everyone said, Matt's done a great job with Jake. Bring him in as a co-host because you were terrible. I'm only joking. I was terrible. But, you know, it's terrible. But, like, you know, Jake's got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And then I see Willie Mason, I see Rennie Mitchell, they're all doing podcasts. They've got a lot of talent. And sometimes, you know, I was watching a podcast with Willie Mason, Justin Moran. They were interviewing Gus Gould. It was a brilliant interview, actually.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
I did. And
that was a really, really good one.
I've dealt with Gus a lot, and he's a genius.
Yeah, but Gus laid it out. He almost laid out the truth of what happens to players and how they've got to hold them back.
Yeah.
Because he feels like they're not ready.
Yeah.
And having that lower tier competition maybe would help these players a lot more. But it's almost like they're dealing, and I know you're a manager, but they're dealing with the manager trying to get the player in early.
Yeah.
Before the player is ready to make that next step. And some of these podcasts are unbelievably, like, educational. Because you can actually go, wait a second, I saw this sport as just this.
Yeah.
And when Gus Gould was explaining it, he said, running a rugby league side as a coach now is completely different to when I was a coach.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I could run it. So they have to be able to manage the organisation rather than the coaching skills itself. And I want to get into Madge as well. He was just here before.
Yeah, I love Madge. Yeah.
Unfortunately, he left the side that we love, New South Wales.
Yeah, that hurts.
But do you see, like, these podcasters that are coming through now, are they going to another level? Because you're mates with a lot of these guys.
Oh, mates with all of them.
Are they getting to this next level of the confidence they had in rugby league?
Well, they're like this, right? It's a way of it's very insightful. You're getting into the inner sanctum, like, and that's what I was going earlier about. You're seeing things you've never seen before, getting answers that you've never heard before, because you're in a more comfortable space with guys who have experienced it all. And you know, Willie's one of them, and Rennie's another, who are two of my best mates. And yeah, it's you know, because they tell stories that, you know, you wouldn't normally tell, you know, because you talk about trust with journalists, and it's not one you'll go on a 360 or go on a paper and tell, but then you hear them on their shows, because it's their show. They know the more they give, the more viewership they're going to get, and the more people can trust and love and enjoy, you know, their journey. And you know, it's becoming big now, and that's where the big networks are competing with. You know, is actually a lot of the podcasters, because it's a thing. Even James Graham, I think he does a wonderful job as well. But yeah, you know, it's a way of these guys now having a career post footy as well, and that's what we're also talking about, and it's using their smarts and their networks, which is very important, and giving these guys an opportunity and another life beyond their profession, which was a professional rugby league player, because it's tough. The transition is very difficult. Jake, you know it. Everyone knows it. If you're not ready for it, it can hit you like a ton of bricks, and you can really crumble and struggle with mental health and all that. And we've seen it a lot. So these days, it is actually more providing not only these guys with life after footy, but it's also giving people and fans something to look forward to and enjoy. So I think it's a win-win all around.
When you were speaking before, it sounds like you've lent into or been involved in a lot of self-work. Like, I can relate to that. Just I've lived like a delinquent for a large part of my life, until I started getting honest with myself around certain things in my life, habitual routine, all that sort of stuff. I know what led me there. I'm curious to ask, what led you to want to take that on a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived it all, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Good fun, eh?
Yeah. Mate, I've been on the roller coaster my whole life until, probably been the happiest I've been the last 3 years, I think a lot of sacrifice. My dad took his, I've said this before, my dad committed suicide when I was 15, so that was really tough, and that was a lesson I learned early that I had to deal with, and then that's the first thing, and then you kind of hit you a bit later in life, but then you play professional rugby league and you go through the roller coaster of that, which we've both been through. So you had to work on yourself. I just had to, and I've done that the last 3 years, and I'm in one of the probably the best I've ever been.
You're in a sweet spot, aren't you?
I've won comps. I've got wooden spoons. I've been married, divorced. I've got 2 beautiful daughters. I manage athletes. I host my own TV show. I've failed at that before though, and then had to work myself back up to the top again. I've been, mentally not in the best place. I've been 110 or 12 kilos and got myself back to 96, 97. So I've kind of done it all. So I feel like I can speak to it. It's not just all roses and and sunshine and rainbows. And I acknowledge that. I've had sports psychs. I've been to therapists before. I've done it all. And life's not easy. It's tough, and it will. And we're going to have challenges moving forward, but I'm proud of sort of where I'm at. I focus big time on discipline. I'm a hard worker. I always have been. And it's about finding balance. You don't need a six-pack to be happy. But,
but you've got one.
It helps.
I worked my ass off for it. Big dreams require healthy habits, and healthy habits requires a lot of discipline,
When did you think, fuck, I need to actually switch it a little bit here? Like, I'm in a bit of a hole.
Yeah.
And what tools and techniques did you get from that as well?
Okay, so COVID had finished, put on a lot of weight, hit about 110, which I'd never done in my life. Separated from my ex, moved out of the family home, just hit a real down spot. It was like, all right, my kids now, I had a blended family.
Yep.
The kids are separated, and it was just like, mate, look in the mirror, what are you doing? Like where do you go from here? And I've never been a quitter. I've always been and I just thought, mate, this is probably the lowest point. Apart from my dad dying, it's the lowest point I've been since then.
Okay.
So, because I love to win, that's what drives me.
Yep.
I thought, okay, where do I go now? I started winning the mornings, So I was like, okay, start with the mornings. Go for a walk, watch the sunrise. Go get a coffee. Slowly build that into runs. Slowly build that into gym sessions, and then. Myself and Sean, who used to work here at Titan, we started training every morning. His gym just around the corner here. Yep. I'd go there every morning. Then it got to a point where I'd not only go there, I'd come here. I'd do it. So I'd started doing a couple of sessions. My big thing was, the more I sort of started looking a bit better and feeling better about myself, then the more that improved with my clarity and my work. And I took that into my into Fox Sports with my 360, and then I was better on air, and then it's like just snowball, right? Like the more you have to be selfish. You've got to prioritize yourself. Like whether you've got kids, a wife, a husband, even your work. If you prioritize yourself and you put time into yourself to make you a better person, physically and mentally, then you're a better dad, you're a better husband, and you're more efficient at work. So it kind of goes hand in hand, and that's what you guys are doing with that elevate, and like. you guys have changed people's lives, and that a lot of it's around the wellness, right? Looking after your body, because your body, you look after the physically, but really it's this that's most important.
That's what gets us going.
But that's they go hand in hand. They're very different, but they go hand in hand. So that's pretty much what was my journey over the last few years.
It was it's funny. I went through that similar situation the last 12 weeks. I was in a crossroads, and we get told selfish is a bad thing. I know I was told that for large just because of the team environment. So I get that. The moment I was like, fuck, I need to make a choice for myself. And I always felt weird doing that. I don't know why. This led me back to self-work. It's okay sometimes to do what you feel you need to do. And I think that was the biggest shift in my mind, and that I was leaning into it. Then I went to Thailand with Metz and his brother and all the other boys, and I was like, you know what? I need to make a shift. And I went and did that, and it wasn't comfortable for me, but I also understood what was going to come off the back of it, because I got the downloads over in Thailand and what I wanted to be a part of. And coming here every day, so I come into the locker room, at footy, and I find that purpose and that drive, and it's like what I used to put into my training or, going out after games or playing my stints. I have this here now, so I dedicate what, when I'm up in the morning, bang, 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 then I'm out and I hibernate in the afternoon. So I resonate.
That's
what
good.
you're saying.
And it's not easy,
No,
and
it's fucking hard, man.
It's very hard. And I think the big thing is for, people watching and listening, it's you're not alone. Like everyone goes through it
100%.
at some point. Everyone goes through it. But a lot of it, I think, comes down to routine, because, obviously we had those structures within our with rugby league and professional sport. And you're disciplined and you've got an amazing routine, and that's come from your hard work ethic and being involved with gyms and business, and but not everyone's got that. So you've got to. I think it comes down to just find the routine that suits you and just stick to it. And the longer you do that, the more benefits you'll get in every single way. But you talk about selfish. I felt the same. Like I put everyone else first, and that's why I was where I was. But like even now, I get wives messaging me and saying, "Can you help my husband?" So at the end of the day, you think it's selfish, but you're actually, as I said, you're better for. You're going to be a better husband. You're going to be a better dad. So at the end of the day, you might feel a little bit selfish at the start, but everyone benefits. Your relationships benefit, and everyone's better off for it.
Sorry, you go next.
No. Well, his birthday is in a couple of weeks.
It is too. I'm getting old.
And he's turning 43, right?
Don't
43. But this is the thing, right?
Come on, man.
I'm watching a game last night, and I see Tyron Smith playing for Canberra. It was about 2002. I ring him straight away.
Yeah.
I go, bro, you haven't aged. You still look like you're 50 back then.
He's
and 50
Benjamin
now.
Button.
I'm only joking.
He's Benjamin Button.
But you two, both of you, like, apart from your grey hair, he's lucky he shaved his, otherwise he'd have a bowl patch. But
the salt and pepper.
You two are probably the two guys that I know that have, I think you are in just as good or better shape than when you guys played.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to lean into, but we're leaning into that anyway.
Yeah.
But the routine, right? With your schedule, it's not that easy sometimes. Like footy season, mate, you're everywhere. How do you stay on top of your diet?
Yeah, it's hard. Well, in at work too with Fox, they feed you, right? And it's not healthy.
It's not the best.
It's not the best. And like that's. I'm grateful they feed you, but it's so so I'm not saying but like I cup that's why I got pretty fat, So I started to order sashimi instead, like I started changing the orders in at Fox, so that's how I kept that. But then the other guys like Buzz and that would be hoeing into Chinese and pizzas, and Reedy and all that. But I just you get that discipline again, and you just turn your, whatever. You guys stick with that, I stick with mine. The morning routine is very important to me. I get a lot of help. My mum's pretty much a personal nanny, so she helps me a lot with the kids, so I can, again, prioritise what I need, which is my mornings and training. And I'm a bit of a workaholic. I get bored very easy. I can't sit still. I'm not good at laying on the couch watching TV. I try to, but it's just not me. I'll just walk and walk and walk. That's why everyone in Coogee sees me 1,000 times a day. I'll just it's my solace. It's just it's become that now for me. So I keep busy. Whether it's intense training or whether it's just going for walks and listening to music. or podcasts, just keep moving, keep busy, you know. And yeah, I love a good Netflix or whatever, but and chill. But at the end of the day, that was a joke.
I get it.
I remember once seeing him 3 times. And you know, like usually you'd see someone morning, midday, evening.
Yeah.
His was like within the space of 5 hours.
Yeah, I
He was
spotted
in
it
and
one day.
out.
It was a different shirt each time. I was like, he's loving it.
Yeah, the washing. We go through the washing. Yeah, you know, I'm loving it, but it's not a fad for me. I've been doing it now for 3 years, so now it's part of my life.
Yeah.
I'll maintain it forever. So if I start getting a bit messy, you guys pull me up and all right.
State of origin. Great win this year. Madge has gone to the Broncos. They bring Laurie Daly in for a second time. How is this going to change the feel of that dressing shed, the way Madge dealt with the players?
Oh, I don't know. I'm because I love Madge, and you know he trains here, and I see him every day here. And I also got a huge respect for him. And we've been talking quite a lot recently about certain things. And I caught up with him when he was picking the team last year, and he went individually to every ex-New South Wales player, and he threw the jersey at me before even saying a word. He goes, "Can we go for lunch?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he threw the jersey at me. I'm like, "Fuck's he doing?" And he goes, "What does it mean to you?" You know, and I'm like, "Oh wow," you know. And I told what it meant to me. And he did that with everyone, right? So from the moment he got that job last year, he was totally invested, and he knew he had to go back to the root of what Origin is and what it means to every player. So, and he got all the ex-players in around so that we would support him and that team in that process and on that journey, which is very smart. Like, so, you know, so then I go on 360, for example, and I believe, so I back him, and no matter what anyone said, I'm sitting next to Gordy, who's the most passionate Queenslander in the world, and everyone questioned it, Madge, and I was all in because he got me all in, and he would have done that with his playing group, you know. So that's what we needed. Exactly what we needed was Madge, and he delivered, and so did the players. So I'm worried because it's hard to replace that, and it's hard to just bring another coach in and go, "Oh, okay, I'm going to coach like that," and the players are going to be the same. And because we've seen it with footy teams and all across the world, EPL, NFL, whatever, it doesn't. The coach, you know, has a big impact on that squad because there's a connection there, right? And there's a connection which breeds success. But now you're starting from the start again, you know, and they got big decisions. Even I'm going a little bit off, but they've even got Mitchell Moses and Luai in the halves. Do they bring Cleary back in? Not many people are talking about that, but that's going to be
Massive.
Huge because Mitch had a great series, pretty much won them that third game with Luai. So that's another decision Laurie Daly has to make that puts pressure on him. Laurie hasn't had the most success in the past, although he had, you know, he come up against probably the best Queensland team ever over a long period of time. And Laurie's one of the best New South Wales players that's ever represented the blue jersey. So, you know, I'm worried about it. I think Loz can do the job, but he's got a big job ahead. I know Billy Slater would have been dying after last year's series. Madge out-coached him, both on-field and off-field in the media. He got in Billy's head, which is very unusual. And they're going to come back bigger, faster, stronger, more passionate than they've ever been before. And we've got a new coach again. So it's going to be a huge challenge for Laurie.
Just on Origin, they lost the first game on New South Wales. So you think about the pressure valve on that. You go down, then you win, then you're up to the cauldron for game 3. So he's already under the pump. Like, you know, what happened was, you know, I don't believe anyone should be sent off in Origin.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. I understand the seriousness of the contact, but yeah, that's my opinion on that. But that was massive because, you know, to come back and win the back 2, obviously players in form.
Yep.
Helps tremendously. Queensland have usually had that in the past, like your Munsters and all these sorts of players have come in on form. That jagged them a little bit, I think, in that sort of that
well,
series.
we wrote New South Wales off straight after game 1.
Yes.
The series was over. But in hindsight, looking back, it was actually probably a really good thing because Suoliti being sent off, I think it gave Queensland a false sense because they didn't win by much in that game, in that first game. We had 12 players on the field the whole game, which is impossible to win in Origin with the intensity that comes with it and how technical and how, you know, the class of the players with an extra man at that level, they're going to expose you. And Queensland did, but they weren't They didn't dominate that game. So everyone thought it was over because they won. And it was in New South Wales, the challenge of going to Melbourne then to Queensland. But I actually think it worked in our favour because it gave them a little bit of a false sense, and they got ahead of themselves, which they don't usually do. And then we got stronger, and the players got more belief from it.
It's not bad when you bring Latrell back into the team.
Well,
too.
exactly, and he was outstanding, wasn't he?
Well, that's the thing, right? Madge took a punt on the fullback positions. Like they were all contentious. The hooker.
Yeah.
So he went out on a limb. But I remember I was talking to Madge after the first game. I go, mate, how was it? He goes, mate, I was in that much pain. He just showed me today. He just had surgery on his back. He had nerve damage. He goes, honestly, I couldn't even watch the game properly. I guess I was in that much pain. I go, what'd you do afterwards? He goes, mate, I went straight to the hospital.
Yeah.
Sure. I go, but I was watching you on the stand. You were like you were. Like it was like you were present, but that just shows you just how tough he is.
This is the thing. Madge is tough, right? And we see that here in the gym. And Madge, this is the challenge too, is Madge picked players like him. Edwards, tough.
Yeah.
Workhorse. And he went with Robson at 9.
Yep.
So he actually picked a team.
But even Zach Lomax, it wasn't like Zach Lomax was the guy you're going to pick on the wing. He's never been played. He's never played.
He picked on form, but he backed Zach, and I'm sure he had conversations with Zach that gave confidence to him and belief in him, and made him a better player. And look at him in his season, he had and where he went from there, playing for his country. But again, he picked a team that was Madge-like, and based around his work ethic, his values, and what he stands for. So now is he going to pick that? Is Laurie going to pick that same team? Or does Laurie make changes, and do they? So it's a big shift. It's a big change.
I'm throwing a name in for the 6 jersey, Burton. I reckon he's sitting right there, and I think if, as you said, Gus, if Gus can get in his ear and go like it's open slather pretty much, for Origin, he may come out those first 10 rounds and put the Bulldogs in the top 4, and he may get that number 6 jersey.
With Matty, definitely. Who knows how the Tigers are going to start the year with Luai, and then there'll be questions over that.
Exactly.
One thing with Matty Burton is he needs a dominant 7 because he's a runner and his kick's big unbelievable. Body. He's an Origin player. He's a big number 6, and him and Cleary would be great in the halves. And Cleary he controls the team, and he's the maestro. He's the boss. He's the he's the man. So I think that could work. Luai's the incumbent though, so there's a lot of I actually think the Bulldogs. My prediction is Bulldogs top 4. I think they'll win a comp within the next 4 to 5 years.
They just bought that front rower.
Yeah,
massive coup
from
Newcastle.
Thompson.
It's Leo Thompson, which is what they needed. That probably the only question mark I've got with the Dogs is probably their 7. I think he's a really good player and he had a great year, but I don't know if. I hate saying it because I feel like being critical, but I just think that if they can get the right 7, they have a team to win the comp.
You've always leaned towards the Roosters a bit more, but last year I've seen a shift. That it's almost 50-50.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There's never been a shift, right? There's never been a shift.
No shift.
The problem with me is I'm very honest.
Well, you won a grand final with the Bulldogs.
I love the Bulldogs. I've got them right here on my arm.
Yeah.
I love them both, right? Yeah. The reason that I would say there's a perception that I was more a Rooster was because the Roosters they've been successful the last decade, forever. They didn't have a great year this year. So I'm often praising them and being critical of the Dogs. But I've been critical of the Dogs because I haven't liked what I've seen until the last 2 years. I haven't liked the decision they've made, the path they've been on. I saw them lose their DNA over a period of time there. And I was critical of that, which a lot of people thought, well, why is he bagging us? No. I'm not bagging. I'm being honest. And I'm saying they've lost their DNA. They need change, and this is where they need change. And then eventually they got to a point where Gus came in and he identified that. And then brought Serrato in, who is amazing. And I've had a lot to do with them that's another thing. They brought me back in so I could see that evolution there, and I can see the path that they're on. And the Roosters have always had me involved. Nick is a very close friend of mine, so they've also always had me involved in the Roosters. They send my daughter's jerseys with their names on them. They invite me to everything. Whereas the Dogs lost that for a number of years. And even though I won a premiership with them, I felt more connected to the Roosters in a way because of that as well. And because I lost a bit of faith there in what the Dogs were doing, it was hard. But I will always love both the same. The Dogs I've won a comp with, and I wouldn't be in who I am today or the position I'm in today in any way, shape or form if it wasn't for both the Roosters and the Bulldogs. But I understand that perception because it was, it was hard for me to bag a club that I loved and I won a premiership with. But that's my job. My job is to call it how I see it, and I pride myself on that. And the fans were off me for it, but now they love me again because I'm telling it how it is, and they're going good, and they could see now what I was talking about. And it's great. I love it.
What do you reckon the Dogs lost? Because it happened really quick.
What did they lose?
In that period that you're talking about, I remember watching a little bit of footy, and I'm like, they're not even really competing. You know what I mean? Like, it was very visible. What do you think they? What do you think they lost?
Well, they lost their culture. Yeah. The Dogs was always about working hard, really, really hard. You would know, talking to Dimmick and the boys that have been there, Jimmy, and it was a league of its own. Like even going from the Dogs to other clubs, the Roosters when I got there weren't there, but then got there, and that's when they started winning premierships. But then I went to the Tigers; they weren't even close. But then they were a league of their own. I think they just got, when Desi went there, he got rid of a few of the guys there that were part of the DNA, and I think one of them was Gary Carden. I think I could be wrong, so I hope I'm not. But then he was such a technical coach. Changed the way that they trained, and I think he disconnected them from that family club that they were. They had success early with Des, but then they're such a family club and family orientated, and such a just ruthless organisation that everything stays within the four walls. They started getting leaks. They started just looking for quick fixes in buys. They didn't look like they were training as hard. Their defence was the worst in the competition, which is usually what they pride themselves on. So there was just all these cracks that come over time. I think their board was split. They had different, they had a lot of fighting in amongst their leadership there. And now they're at a point where they're all back on board and they've got the right people. And Gus, to his credit, identified that, and, he's done an incredible job there.
Do you think the Tigers, right? So, like, even speaking about the Dogs then, do you think the Tigers have the ability over the next 2, 3, 4 seasons to get themselves back into the 8 in some capacity? Because I've seen what Bags is doing at the moment, and that's a win. If you're at the start of pre-season, if you've got blokes saying you need to be back like this, and they don't come back, and he goes, "Well, you're going to speak to the board," that's a win, because all of a sudden, especially if it's players that are playing first grade, if you're in that the bunch there that you're trying to get up. Oh, fuck, I've got to train hard, because otherwise if, blokes that are playing first grade are going to have to see the board, I'll just get fucked off. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that standard in there now is starting to create a little bit of success.
Yeah, I do believe that. I think this year they'll improve a lot. Again, been highly critical of them, but for obvious reasons. They've just bought players for, underperforming players for too much money. They poor recruitment, and then and they've had infighting as well at board level, and
massive.
And in amongst. But Benji this year, like you said, from the off season, set the standard, right? And you could tell that's what he needed to do. Benji's close with Wayne, so I'm sure Benji's had a lot of conversations with Wayne Bennett over the pre-season. Benji's one that's a very people person, so I think he's probably, realised, I can be a people person and they can still love me and trust me and like me, but I've also got to call it out, and I've got to, I've got to set high standards, and I think he's done that from the pre-season. And he had to. You just got to draw a line at some point. You can't keep doing what they've been doing, and Luai, Taruva,
May,
massive. The players they've bought, I think will make a significant difference. And as long as that culture, which is what they've struggled with for a long time, is united and on the same page and working their asses off, and I think we'll see a huge improvement from them.
The Luai going there's massive. Like, if you remember Benji back in 05, 06, like flair, bit of cocky, confident, but worked hard. I think that's going to be a massive buy for them to get him in there, not just because of the type of player he is, but person. Like, he is the footy paid of the mad competitor, but he's also a family man,
but also the maturity, like in the last few years of Luai, of that leader. But I think what was to Luai's advantage, and now the Tigers, was Cleary being out. Cleary was out for a long period, and then that created a new leader in him. And he wanted to show that
Yep.
he didn't have to have Cleary, and that showed in New South Wales. And now he was that top dog. So he's going there. Obviously, there's pressure, but at least he's going there with the experience.
Yeah.
Now, the question I have, though, is does Benji pull him in and go, hey, listen, what were the systems there? Because we've got to start replicating some of the systems there. Because I was watching a podcast with James Graham, and he was with the CEO of Penrith, and what Penrith done in their transition when they taken the club to the next level, where they said it's about our community first, then it's about the jersey, and that, you know, we've got to train hard. We've got to train harder than everyone else. But there was another layer to that is we're going to educate you guys.
Yeah.
And you guys are going to go in and armed with the education that's necessary for life after footy.
Yeah.
I wonder if, you know, Benji pulled Luai aside and said, listen, what are some of the things we need to adopt?
Yeah, definitely. That would have been one of the first things he would have done. Yeah, every team's got different dynamic and structures and things that make them work and make them who they are. And not everyone can just replicate the Panthers, right? But you look at the Bulldogs and Stephen Crichton, the impact he had, kick out on the Bulldogs the past 2 years. You know, you need to draw as much as you can from these guys, because not only are they winners, not only is Luai a winner, but it's the biggest games, the biggest moments under the bright lights, under the highest pressure that he's delivered. So, you know, how can he express that, or I suppose share that with his playing group there at the Tigers and make it rub off on them? And it doesn't just start by running out on the field. It starts in the preseason. It starts on the 1%ers. It starts on training sessions. And I would think that Luai would be have his eyes all over every player and making sure there's no shortcuts, and the standard of training is at the highest of levels. And that's something that the Tigers, you know, sometimes you don't realise when you're at any club and you're struggling that you're actually not where you need to be, or you're not trained at the level that you need to be, you know, because you don't know any other way. So when someone like Luai comes in, and even Taruva, who's only a winger, which is a bit disrespectful, I'm not saying it only as a winger, but, you know, they bring that work ethic, that culture, that success over. There's no doubt Benji would be just like a sponge off Luai, and then they would be combining to, you know, I suppose have the biggest impact on the squad they got.
One thing I saw, and it was towards the latter part of last year, where Blocker and Benny Elias would be on, NRL, well, not 360, but you know, they would say, we don't get invited to anything. You know how like the Bulldogs brought you back in and you felt like you belonged again?
Big.
How important is it for the Tigers to start? They have to change that, right?
And they do. Like, this is the problem. And I've said it since I was there, which was a long time ago, and I identified it then. And, you know, Madge, the story I told about Madge, he got every player in, you know, and, you know, I work with Benny Elias and Blocker and those, and Ciro and those guys, and with Fox and 360, and I'm shocked when they say they haven't been invited to certain things. And, you know, it's like, because there's a bit of a division there with West and the Tigers. This is why leadership's so important, you know, and we talk about Luai and Benji, but there's also a board above them who are causing problems for everyone. I don't even know the details because I can't be bothered and I don't really care. But there's that many issues there that, you know, if you're not inviting Balmain greats to West Tigers functions, what the hell are you doing? Like, you want your players to see those greats that, you know, were some of the best that's ever played our game to be around and in amongst the group and love and support your club, and then they'll go on TV and they will back you. But if you alienate your ex-players and people that are so important to the fans too, because the fans love them, then any chance they get, they'll, you know, this is bad PR. You know, like use your brain. Like, is it good to know, is it good to hear that the ex-players aren't even invited to your functions? Like, it's not good. It doesn't look good. It's not good leadership, and it infiltrates. You know, what is it? A fish rots from its head. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's been used with them for a while, but you know, it's like business. It's all the same. You know, like you know, I don't get it, and this is their big thing. Yeah, they got Luai, they got Taruva, they got all the players they've bought. Right, that's that's great, and they'll be better, but they'll be even more better. If they work their shit out at the top, you know?
And like, it's a professional sport. Like, those people are actually, to an extent, destroying the club in some capacity. As you're saying, when you've got ex-players, like Block's just not a Tigers grade. He's a rugby league grade. 20 tests, 20 origins. You know, he's been involved in rugby league his whole life. When they were saying, we're not sure about playing at Leichhardt, mate, when Block come on, he goes, mate, walk down the road and walk to, like I grew up, my dad played for Balmain, so I understand what he's saying. That's the 8th wonder of the world down there. You get a packed house up on the hill, it's chockers.
No, they were coming
the
last. What do you mean they were coming last and they had a packed crowd?
Mate, it's the best. Because you walk down that street.
I know Manly fans wouldn't turn up, but Tigers fans were coming last.
Roosters fans would.
Roosters and Manly fans are the same.
Again.
But look, we're getting towards the end. I know you got to go,
Yeah.
mate. It was great having you. Any final questions? Obviously, everyone can find you on NRL 360, but what else are you doing?
Yes. Well, I mean, I've got a management company called Serious Sports, but you know, I've got a few clients there. Main focus this year is actually going to be on Strong Dad, but we're changing that. We're relaunching, rebranding. You know, we've been working on this for a period of time, workshopping. We've got a couple of business partners, but the main focus there is on. We're going to focus on men and women, but more importantly, I think we're going to start with kids at school. We're going to get programs throughout the schools. We want to get into the minds and get to you know, as many people as we can. We not so much just training programs and nutrition, but a lot around mental health and mindset and positivity, and also, you know, I'm passionate about it. You know, the biggest killer in men is suicide between the ages of 18 and 42. You know, the interest rates going up, cost of living going up, life's tough. I think we've got to educate our children because kids are actually committing suicide too, a lot more than what they usually have at school, getting bullying and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, that's a project that we're going to rename it. I think we'll have Strong Dad, Strong Mum, you know, and then Strong Kid. But I think we're gonna have a big banner over that. That's my real focus for this year, apart from NRL 360 and doing the coverage there for Fox League. But mate, I'm looking forward to 2025. I think it's going to be a big one.
Excellent.
And by the way, you are looking unbelievable, and
Thanks.
you do have a six-pack. So
Well, not
I know
quite. I'm trying to get. I've never had a six-pack in my life, even when I was playing.
But you're getting
They're
very
overrated,
close.
mate. No worries, they're overrated.
That's what I used to say. I'm trying to get there.
I was called the cylinder. I just do the same. So it doesn't matter my skin.
Mate, it's a lot of work.
50s. I didn't have
Isn't
one,
it
mate.
crazy? Like some guys. I mean, I know Minnie back in the day, and guys like that.
Just naturally had
They could just eat whatever they wanted and
does
turn
my
up
head
ripped,
in.
and you just go.
How?
Takes me 3 sessions a day. Anyway, I love
No,
it.
but I want to thank you, mate, and I hope you have a massive year. Love to get you on beginning of next year.
Yeah, no
see
worries.
how all those goals went.
Yeah.
How
recap.
the
Beautiful.
Vegas and everything. But yeah, we might do that once a year with Braith.
Excellent. Sounds good to me.
He's a great man.
Happy
Thank
to
you.
join. You blokes, congratulations too on what you're doing great things, and love the gym. And I'll see you probably tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks a lot for sure.
Thanks,
Oh,
mate.
brother, thank
All
you.
good.
huh?
On your bar.
Thanks.
All good.
Thank you.
On your Jackie.